Putin's domestic strategy of inaction may backfire. Russia is a complete and utter snoozefest. At least, that's what Vladimir Putin's actions over the past 6 months have suggested. The president has been very busy, both behind the scenes, where he is micromanaging the war effort, and out in the open, where he is attending meetings on the economy and overseeing the opening of a tramline in the occupied Ukrainian city of Mariupol. However, the president has not announced any plans to help the country adjust to the new wartime reality. Despite drone attacks on the Kremlin, mercenary boss Yevgeny Prigozhin's crusade against the defense ministry, and even Ukraine's impending counteroffensive, Putin has refused to get involved in this way. He is more comfortable lecturing on historical topics and giving upbeat forecasts for Russia's economy while painting a bleak picture for the West. That doesn't mean nothing's happening in Russia, quite the opposite, in fact. But what is happening has much more to do with the corporate interests of individual departments and figures than with the president's plans or strategic interests. The current events are largely a reaction to the deteriorating situation in Russia. For example, due to the complications of conscription in the midst of a war that is not going as planned, Russia has digitized its system for issuing conscription notices. Or how the system's attempt to preserve itself in the face of rapidly increasing geopolitical risks and fears of defeat has resulted in a hardening of repression. Many recent decisions, including the return of ideology, have been driven by repressive inertia and self-aggrandizement by major institutions like the FSB and the defense and finance ministries. Including literature, film, and theater in the official ideology has been openly discussed by Justice Minister Konstantin Chuichenko. Putin's involvement in this process has long since ended, and it is now proceeding autonomously, albeit with his tacit approval. Putin has been silent in this and other significant discussions. Russia's borders, open or closed? Should people who have already left be denied certain privileges? Who won't be required to join the army? How will the state punish those it has labeled foreign agents? Where do we go from here with Prigozhin? When incidents like drone strikes and attempts to kill ultra-patriots occur, how should the government react? Legislators, party heads, cabinet ministers, military bloggers, and the intelligence community all have strong opinions on these and other issues, and their views are widely known. Putin, however, remains silent, instead choosing to withdraw Russian forces from the strategic Ukrainian city of Kherson, suspend Russia's participation in the New START nuclear agreement, and withdraw from the Treaty on Conventional Armed Forces in Europe. His long-awaited address to the Federal Assembly largely consisted of a recitation of government actions that had already been taken. From former President Dmitry Medvedev and State Duma Speaker Vyacheslav Volodin and Security Council head Nikolai Patrushev to Prigozhin and the war bloggers and television hosts, today Putin is virtually the only person in Russia who is not increasingly engaged in politics. It's as if the president has taken a leave of absence to focus on top-secret military and geopolitical matters, about which even fewer people have information. It's not a sign of timidity or lack of confidence. Instead, it shows Putin's growing sense of superiority. All of his political plans and hopes right now are contingent on events outside of his control. Putin has no tools or means to alter the current state of affairs. But he is confident that the world will eventually adapt to his needs and hand over Kyiv. Putin intends to wait out what he considers to be the West's and Ukraine's inevitable transformation. He no longer worries that the Ukrainians will mount a counteroffensive because he is confident that, barring a few minor setbacks, very little will change on the battlefield. The Kremlin's calculation is that Western internal divisions will force cuts to military and political support for Kyiv in the absence of a military breakthrough, while in Ukraine, elite fracture will lead to the emergence of a party of peace, i.e. capitulation. Putin's hopes are not completely without merit, but he faces opposition from Russia's politically discontented elite. Despite being a loyal and adaptable force, it has changed significantly during the war. Russia's ruling class may view inaction as a sign of defeat these days. All of this paves the way for parastatal actors' political aspirations to soar. Although they are commonly viewed as Kremlin tools, they are slowly accumulating political capital and may lose patience with the current regime at some point. Putin is already at a loss to explain his current state of anticipation. Many people noticed in the early months of the war how the politically immature pro-war, ultra-patriots, had suddenly become the dominant voice online. Angry patriots like Prigozhin and former Donbass commander Igor Strelkov and the war bloggers are gaining ground in Russian politics at the expense of officious hawks like Medvedev, Volodin, and Patrushev. In contrast to those who have emerged in combat conditions, the former come across as opportunists and armchair generals. As long as Putin's popularity stays high and he maintains full control of the government, there is no danger to the regime. The public paralysis and refusal to assume responsibility for the resolution of the most pressing problems facing Russia can only make him and his courtiers politically irrelevant, leaving room for the ultra-patriots to fill the void. Putin may one day come to rely on a group that, thanks to his opaqueness and inaction, has become dangerous.